Hello, everyone, and welcome back to All Things Star Wars, the greatest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. I'm Mr. Jason Roscom. With me here each and every single week, the Darth Vader to my Palpatine, Dave Martin. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Jason.
Feedback. Oh, man.
Oh, it's the worst. That was my iPad.
How's it going today, Dave?
As soon as I turned, I opened up the YouTube chat, and immediately, Bronco Fett has to have something to say about college football.
Oh yes,
how the Sun Belt was easy to beat. So I'm going to get to that.
All I want to know is, did Michigan win?
No, they didn't.
Damn it!
They lost to Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
So, Donald Salsky with your Go Blue.
That's all I know or care about college football. As long as Michigan wins, then I'm good. So anyway,
for no fucking reason, you have no basis to. The worst.
We talked about it last week. What's his name? The coach, Harbaugh.
Oh, that's right. You're making some sort of fucking Harbaugh, whatever.
Anyway, so Star Wars wise, what are we talking about this week?
I don't even fucking.
You don't know. You have no clue.
Fucking Michigan. Rebels. We're talking Rebels. We're going back-to-back Rebels with season 3, part 2.
Yes.
So we're going to finish out season 3 so that we can get to season 4 that much faster. And for all of you Clone Wars fans that are out there, the faster we get through Rebels, the faster we can get back to Clone Wars and get caught up to that, because we have kind of a deadline, I feel like, for Clone Wars.
If we want to make it by the time the streaming service and the new season hits, then we gotta
catch ourselves up. So,
and I mean, honestly, this is me freestyling right now, but I'm thinking we may just have to do like single seasons of Rebels, like an entire season in one fucking episode, not doing what we've been doing with previous seasons of Clone Wars and what we've been doing with Rebels, like covering it basically episode by episode, splitting each season into 2 or 3 parts. Like, just fuck it, this is season 3. This is what we thought. This was the one shining episode. These were the 5 shit episodes. The rest were just kind of, and moving on. They have to be that kind of thing.
I don't disagree with you at all. What did you do to your finger?
This one right here?
That one right there.
Day 1 that I was here in fucking San Antonio. The first day, I'm dragging my bags up to my fucking room on the 3rd floor, and I smashed the shit out of my finger. So that right there, everybody, is the remnant of me smashing the shit out of my fucking finger. So that's what I think of everything right now, right there.
Well, at least Texas.
I don't dislike Texas, honestly, but
whatever. Don't you have some story about, like, spending time in Texas with an aunt or something? I thought I remember you telling a story about that on a previous podcast.
I do have family down here. Anyway, we'll talk about that at another time. So we got a day in Star Wars. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there because it's pretty damn relevant to what we're talking about today. And this is September 2nd, which is the day we're recording this, in 2014. Any guesses as to what this is? You haven't seen it, have you?
No, but I'm going to say it's the release of Rebels.
Very close. Star Wars: A New Dawn is released as the first novel in the new Star Wars canon. I could have sworn that Tarkin was the first novel in the new canon, but apparently it was A New Dawn.
Interesting.
So, fun fact.
Which I have read.
Yes.
It was actually very good.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, we're live now on YouTube, by the way. I just got a notification on my phone.
Oh, good. Glad to hear. Glad to hear we're live.
Just in case anybody was wondering.
Right. Yeah, and you said you've read A New Dawn. That is a prequel to Rebels, correct? Because I have not read it.
Correct.
And that is something that you would recommend to the listeners out there to read, right?
Absolutely, I would.
I ask because I don't know if we're ever going to get the chance to actually review it here on the show, so I figured we'd throw that out there. Once again, good lead into today's main topic, which is Rebels Season 3. Also, a little piece of news came out this week that I thought was fairly interesting. We get a lot of like dumb like encyclopedia books and all kinds of other extra shit released on a regular basis that I never really care about. But one thing that was just announced over the last few days that kind of piqued my interest was this new encyclopedia called Scum and Villainy. Did you hear about this at all?
I did.
Yeah, and it's being released on October 23rd, and it's written by Pablo Hidalgo, where if you've followed us here on the show, he is one of the main people in the story group. It's like him, Leland Chi, Matt Martin, I think, are like the three amigos basically in the story group.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's the one who put this together. And I pulled a quote out of the official Star Wars website, and I really wanted to read this because I like this. Scum and Villainy, however, isn't just an encyclopedia of bounty hunters, gangsters, and baddies who have a death sentence on 12 systems. Rather, it's a fully illustrated hardcover tome made entirely of notes and intel from 3 generations of family of police officers spanning the eras of the Republic, Empire, and New Republic. Which is kind of neat because they're kind of kayfabing this a little bit, where they're doing it as like this generation of law enforcement people somewhere in the Star Wars universe collecting all these fucking notes and data on all these criminals and fucking gangsters and smugglers and bounty hunters. Really reminds me of that bounty hunter box that we opened up on the show really early on.
Yeah.
About a year ago. Reminds me of that. And I really like the way that they're nice. Really like the way they're presenting this. So I just figured that was worth bringing up.
No, I don't think I'll buy it, honestly, unless somebody. I think it'd be tough. I'm not. I mean, if it tells a good story, then maybe. But like we've had conversations about kind of reading and like different like how we approach reading like the books and the novels and stuff. And some of the Star Wars stuff, you go through lulls of reading. Like back to Kathy and I just last night were at Barnes & Noble, and I was sniffing around all the Star Wars stuff, which, by the by, I've read a lot of fucking Star Wars books. There's this section in Barnes & Noble that, they've isolated for Star Wars, which is only one shelf section of books because most of it's in paperback now. Yeah. I legitimately have read better than 85% of the books that are on that shelf. Damn. Like, and I'm just like, and I went to say, like, I said to my wife, I'm like, do you realize how many books I've read that are here? She's like, nope, I don't want to know. And she walked away. She just, I don't even want to know. So
I think reading's good no matter what kind of book it is, right? You're still reading.
Yeah, well, exactly. But having said that, it's kind of, it ebbs and it flows. Like there's sometimes when something from Star Wars comes out and I'm not in a reading mood. Yeah, where I really just kind of have to push my way through it. And there's sometimes where I'm like, I'm a fairly voracious reader. So again, we've talked about this before, but like I just bought 2 books last night. I bought Killing Reagan, which it's been out for 3 years. I just hadn't had a chance to read. The Killing series that Bill Wright is actually very good. Killing Lincoln is probably one of the best books I've read.
Is that fiction? Like, is that a fictional book, or is that just like a political commentary book?
No, it's basically that moment in history as told, like through the players. It's taking factual information and presenting it in a way like it's almost like a timeline, like telling it. It's not a story. I keep wanting to say story, but it's a like the Reagan one, because I'm reading it. I read half of it last night, and it's basically like, here's what was going on in Reagan's life, like starting when, he was getting into Hollywood, right? And it kind of, there's a timeline. And then it starts with John Hinckley's timeline around the same. And it kind of like their timeline, how their timelines parallel.
And how they're eventually kind of converge to that one moment.
And there's bits and pieces of, because it's not just like, hey, pull this from the history book. There's like, there's a lot of footnotes and things about these certain like statements will be made as like, yeah, this was pulled from, Richard Nixon's diary or the Richard Nixon tapes, that the statement was made with this phone call with Reagan and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, not pertinent for the Star Wars podcast, but like, I'm just in the mood to read. So I picked up that book and a History of Ireland book that I may or may not get through depending on, it's an author that I haven't read before. It's kind of a weird presentation, but it was on a clearance rack, so why not? So it was the Reagan book for $7. $7 for a hardback book at Barnes and Noble, and then I get a discount on it because I'm a member. So, yeah, and like I said, that the Killing series that Bill O'Reilly has done is actually I've really enjoyed it.
Cool.
Long story. Shut up, bitches. Anyway,
they were commenting on my shirt, by the way. I'm wearing a different tank top this week. I'm wearing the official All Things Star Wars tank top.
Is that the long story? Is that what that's about? Or are you commenting on my long story?
No, I was talking about my shirt.
Whatever.
The shirt swap. Anyway, so yeah, you've read a lot of fucking Star Wars books.
Yeah, and I won't read this one.
Okay. One other thing that I wanted to mention before we get into the main topic, with a little bit of news, a little bit of casting news over the last week. Some of it official, some of it more of the rumor and innuendo. I'm going to talk about two of them first. First of all, the one that was confirmed by the people at the Star Wars show is Dominic Monaghan, or however the fuck you say his last name. Mm-hmm. He's officially part of the Episode 9 cast. He was one of the fucking hobbits in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He was also on the TV show Lost, a favorite of mine. So I'm curious to see what they do with him. It's weird, though, because he's kind of short. Like, that's why they cast him as a fucking hobbit. I think he's actually shorter than me, which is, saying something. But yeah, that was confirmed by the Star Wars show that he's definitely in it. Then another one that's rumor, but it's been fucking everywhere on the internet, is some fucking douchebag from Doctor Who. He was one of the last fucking Doctor Who guys. I don't know.
Yeah,
he looks like a fucking alien. So he's the perfect cast member for Star Wars because he doesn't look like a human being. He's got a very weird, kind of squarish, made of clay looking face.
There's all these Doctor Who fans all over the world that are like just cringing right now because.
Well, you know what? I don't give a fuck because your show is fucking retarded. So I'm sorry, but that's the dumbest shit I have ever seen in my life.
I can't sit through it either. Honestly, I've never got into Doctor Who. It's I
tried watching it when they started it with that hot blonde that was like his little sidekick, and that still wasn't enough. I'm like, despite the fucking the hot blonde, I can't do it. I can't do it. This is terrible. So yes, you can berate me all you want in the fucking YouTube chat. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, Matt Smith is the guy's name. Donald Solsky on the chat. I think that's the name of the guy.
Yeah, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
No, the guy that you're describing.
Yeah. Now, the thing that's kind of really striking me about all this casting news is they've added a lot of fucking people to this cast, and some like people that are actual names, some people that are going to be more than just like your pizza, sir, and then they leave. So it's. Like, what the fuck are they going to do with all of these new people? Are they really just going to be like resistance people in the background? Like, General, they're firing lasers, and then you never see them again? Or, I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering where they're going with all these new cast members.
I don't know, but I think maybe there's a point in filmmaking when you get to like, all right, rather than wasting time with all this, like trying to find the right person for a particular role. Maybe you have something in mind and this person's body of work. And you're like, that's the person I want because this is how I envision this particular character. So you go and get that person. That person's usually fairly well established. Right. Star Wars is known for going out there and making, taking somebody from nowhere and making them into something. But I think sometimes you get to a point. I mean, listen, we're sitting here. It's now September of 2018. We're a year and a couple months away from this movie being out. They got to start shooting. If you have roles that need to be filled, how much are you going to go through casting and everything else when you need to get this fucking movie shot?
Maybe that's part of it. I'm just curious, like, what they're going to do with all these new faces. You know what I'd like to see, and I kind of put a little note in here, like what my hope is. I'm hoping that we get more of the Knights of Ren in this fucking movie because we haven't seen shit from them in the first two movies beyond that one fucking weird Rey vision in Force Awakens. We know they're out there. We know that they are part of this new canon.
Do we know? I mean, do we know that they're out there?
Well, we don't. They could be fucking dead right now for all we know, but there's still a story there to be told. And I wouldn't mind seeing it told in episode 9 and that being a big part of it. And maybe that's what all these fucking new cast members are going to be, like fucking weird face from Dr. Shit, Dominic Monaghan, maybe even Kerry Russell. She could be like some fucking female Knight of Ren. We don't know. We don't know they're all dudes under there. So it's
true.
That's what I would like to see. I base this on zero facts or leaks or anything else. It's just a theory.
I'm smiling because I think I was clever on the chat.
I'll go back and read it at some point. So anyway, let's hop into our weeks real quick. For me personally, I don't have a lot. I've been having a rough time since I've been down here in Texas, honestly. I kind of alluded to it last week. I don't know what it is, man. I've been in a fucking funk, and it only feels like it's getting worse. So I'm trying to like get back into some exercise. I've been running a lot. Like I've been running every other day in the mornings before the sun comes up, and it's kind of helping, but I'm just fucking sick of not being home at this point. The course down here isn't hard. It's somewhat challenging, and it's supposed to get a lot harder here in the next couple of weeks, but I mean, the course itself is fine. The people are fucking fine. It's just, I'm just burned out, and I'm just fucking done with all this. And it's really having an effect on my mental state. So I'm trying to get myself into some kind of a fucking routine, but I can't seem to do it. It sucks. So
yeah, being away from home at this length of time, it's in a non-deployment situation where
I was thinking about that too. It's like when you're deployed, it's different because typically you're going with everybody from your fucking unit, people you know when you work with on a regular basis. Here, I'm with fucking nobody. There's a couple of guys here that I know from my school in Mississippi, but it's not like we're the closest of friends. No offense, guys. And I'm just kind of here isolated by myself. And you know how I am on the road anyway. I'm really isolated for the most part.
Right. Yeah, but also when you're on the road, we'd be gone for 10 to 12 days,
right.
Sometimes up to 20.
Yeah. And we're going on 7-8 months now of this, and it's fucking old, and I'm sick of it. And it's,
well, we've crossed the threshold into a new month.
Yeah.
So that means that we're calendar wise 1 month closer to you getting done with all this shit. And you know what? It's probably, Dave Martin's opinion, because I went through this I went through the same thing because back in the day, I went right from being out in Seattle for 3 months, going to a school, coming home I was home for, I think 4 weeks. And then we were forced into going to radio operator school.
Yeah. Because
of the whole conversion and all that other bullshit. Then I immediately went back out the door, was gone from October till fucking February, actually almost March. So that was very, very tough. Very, very tough. And I definitely feel for you. But the only good thing I could say about it is like better that it fucking gets done now and you're done with it.
Yes.
For the rest of your military career, you won't have to worry about that shit. And you won't have to worry about going to these schools and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only good thing you can come away with. Like, better that it was able to work out, that you were able to get this fucking done this year. That way you don't have to worry about it. And you can cruise into retirement.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm having a Rick and Morty burping.
Yeah. But I mean, beyond that, the only thing I've done Star Wars wise is just get through Rebel Season 3, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. So what about you? I mean, I'm sure you've got some stuff to talk about.
So let's see. I kind of like this week is kind of a blur, honestly. I did some stuff and chased some stuff around. I've got, we've alluded to it, maybe not. I don't know. Like there's this contract job that I may or may not be getting.
Right.
Knock on wood.
And bring that up last week, yeah. Yeah,
and it's kind of like this waiting period of like, okay, are they going to get the contract? They feel good about it. Do I start like getting excited about it, or like? And I got a weird email this week to update our resume because you're going to have to go through an interview with all this other stuff. So I'm like, whatever. And then there's so much uncertainty with like what that job, like I know that the fucking position. I did it for how long did I do it? mean, I was doing Stanival.
I mean, for at least 10 years that I knew you.
Yeah, it was like 12 years total
Yeah.
that I did Stanival. So, and that's basically the job I'm going into. I could do that shit with my fucking eyes closed. So I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about it. It's kind of like Jason and I were just talking offline before we went on the air. It's kind of like go for the money grab and, you know, do what I'm good at for a little bit, and then, you know, keep making myself better to move on to something else where I'm not making the commute. Well, I think it'd be fun to go back to the base and kind of be around the ops and stuff like that. But there's a part of me that's just like, whatever. So it's been like that kind of week. So I've been just trying to escape into it and then do other stuff. You know, it's Labor Day weekend, and you know, the wife and I, we went down the shore one night so I could try to take some pictures of the Milky Way, which didn't work out, unfortunately. If you follow me on Instagram, you'd see some of my failed attempts. And then I went back down. My daughter Kate came home from school for the weekend, and when we went down the shore for the just for the evening, you know, just go on the boardwalk, on the arcades and stuff, just goof off a little bit on Friday, Saturday. It was yesterday. What's today?
I think today's Sunday.
So yesterday. That was yesterday. Anyway, so while we were down there, was it really yesterday? No, I don't even know. Anyway.
You're watching senility set in as live on air.
Yeah.
As Dave is losing his fucking mind.
Yeah, obviously. So anyway, I was down in Ocean City, New Jersey, and which is probably one of my favorite places in the world. I kind of grew up going to a different beach area, but I like Ocean City. As I have gotten older, I appreciate the more family atmosphere that Ocean City has because it's a dry island. Not to say that there's a fucking million liquor stores off the ends of the bridges, but once you go into Ocean City itself, they promote themselves as a family environment. So there's no bars on the boardwalk and stuff like that. So it's just nice to be able to walk around and not have to deal with some of that bullshit. So anyway, we were playing arcades and goofing off and just enjoying ourselves. And at the far end from where we were parked, ran into this store. It's called Mike's Toys and Collectibles. And some of you might have saw some stuff on the Facebook group. I think Kathy posted some stuff.
Yeah, I saw something on there.
Yeah, listen, my wife is I've said this 100 times and I'll say it again. She's so much better at promoting the podcast than I am. Like she brought it up like to the kid that was in there. I say kid, I don't know. He's definitely younger than I was. So we kind of floated into the store. They had Star Wars stuff. Like they had Black Series figures like right in the front. And the guy that was in there, I'm assuming it was Mike. I'm assuming it was his place. I didn't get his name. My wife started to talk about the podcast. So and then I started talking to him a little bit about it, and you know, told about being on Instagram and blah blah blah, trying to get a follow back. So this is kind of my plug for his place. If you're in New Jersey, you go down the Ocean City area, look for Mike's Toys and Collectibles on the end. A lot of really, really good Star Wars shit in there, man. A lot of good Star Wars shit. Kathy took a bunch of pictures for me because I suck at it.
And those are in the private Facebook group, right?
Yeah, and I'll probably put some stuff on Instagram as well for the listeners. But some really cool vintage toys. He had I guess it's I'm going to fuck this up. I know it, but it was I'm not going to play the video of him telling it, but there's one of I guess there was 3 variants of the Yoda with the snake. There was like green snake Yoda, orange snake Yoda, or whatever. And he has right. I think it's
from Empire, right?
Yeah, and
I had one of those. I think it was like the orange snake.
Yeah, I think this is the green snake variant, and he had it in there for like $350.
Damn.
Perfect condition. Mint.
Loose though? Was it in package or was it out of package?
No, it was out of package.
Okay.
Most of the figures, the vintage stuff he had was not carded. It was loose. But still had he just had a lot of cool stuff. He had an original TIE fighter in there, a bunch of Tauntauns.
Nice.
Had a Luke's land speeder that was in there, which is a great toy. I remember my cousin Rick had that toy. And like I said, right when you walked in there, I had a bunch of Black Series figures. So, I'm in the store, and the guy's super, super knowledgeable, knows the Star Wars stuff, knows the stuff that he has. And so Kathy and Kate left, and I had to buy something. So
right,
I bought Black Series figure.
Ooh.
Which I believe we already have this in the studio collection, but I got a Inferno Squad agent.
Yes.
So, and nice. I think you do already have this, don't you?
Yeah, I have that one in the studio. Yeah.
Yeah. So we may end up opening this one.
That's awesome. Because it's basically one of the Inferno Squad people in their TIE Fighter outfit.
Exactly.
With like the red, it's got the red logo on the helmet, right?
Yep, exactly.
That's
and
awesome.
it's pretty badass. I guess this is the GameStop exclusive. He had the Darth Rev in there.
I want that one so bad.
$32 he had it for.
I may have to spring for it at some point.
It was, unfortunately, it was cash only, and you should have seen the shit show of me trying to fucking because we had been in the arcades and everything. So we're the cash that we had, his card reader was down. So I'm fucking, I had to pull I have a stash of $2 bills in my wallet. So I ended up using one of the $2 bills with a pile of quarters and shit. It was really funny. It was 11 o'clock at night too. So I'm sure he was trying to close. But anyway, Mike's Toys and Collectibles in Ocean City. He's also got a store in North Wildwood. Check it out. Really good collection. Really, really nice Star Wars stuff. And he has other stuff in the store as well, but obviously I'm fixated on the Star Wars shit.
Of course.
Anyway, speaking of my future employer, potentially, so here's the thing. Jason and I already talked about this. How are we doing on time?
We've already been on for almost half an hour.
Really? Wow. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make this short. I did some dumb shit. I got an email from my future employer that here's a position description. Can you just throw some more of this stuff into your resume? I'd already had an offer letter and everything from the company, but I have to get interviewed by the base. I already said that. So the position description had a typo in it. Okay. And it's a significant, it's significant enough where it was okay, it should say host and it says hoist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if you're sending this out, obviously in the closed group of people that this is probably going out to, that's not a big deal. If you go and put this out nationwide, to me, I think you would look silly,
right,
to have a typo like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the person who typed it up probably doesn't have any knowledge of the particular position or the acronym that it's describing or anything else. It's just a typo, but it's enough of a typo that for people that have lived in ops and know the acronym, they look at that and go that's unprofessional,
sure,
in my opinion. Yeah. So I emailed them back and I told them they had a typo. Right? It's not. I'm going to be a standards and evaluations guy. Shouldn't I be the one who catches some shit like this? Is this not validating what you're hiring me for? Right? Am I wrong?
No, trust me. I completely get it. But I guess at the same time, it's hard to interpret shit sometimes over text or emails, as I'm sure you've seen over the years. Somebody interpreting something you say completely wrong. So I don't know the exact context that you corrected these people. It does not surprise me, knowing you the way I know you, that you did this. So I guess it really just depends on how it comes off to these people that are potentially going to be giving you a job.
Yeah, so. And he's the director of this thing too. It's not some schmuck recruiter. It's whatever. So it's I just wanted to throw it out there. This is just me. It's just my personality. So if you guys out there in Facebook land and Instagram or podcast land, tell me that I'm a fucking idiot, please, because you'll just validate my wife's thinking.
Yeah.
The biggest news of the week, and then I'll be done. Is welcome back college football.
Yes,
Bronco
I've been
Fett,
seeing it
myself,
everywhere.
Big Lovin, we're and everyone else, Donald Solsky and Bronco Fett's brother. I
Brother Fett.
don't like using their names.
Yeah.
Orange Jacket guy. I guess.
Oh yeah, Orange Jacket guy. That's right.
Yeah. Those guys, aside from the Michigan guys, who, God damn it, I dislike Notre Dame a lot. And it just fucking figures that Michigan can't beat them. Ugh, whatever. I don't want to hear how good they are, because the things that they would throw back at me are the fact that, like, oh God, Penn State had such a tough time against Appalachian State. You know, they're from the Sun Belt Conference, whatever. Listen to me. They've won their conference several years in a row. They've got a good fucking football team. And people that follow Penn State know that this was going to be a challenging game, especially for the first, we lost one of the best tight ends in the country to the draft. We lost our wide receiver core. We have no good wide receivers right now. That number 84 last night, he made a couple of good catches there at the end, but that was fucking, some of the drops just come fuck on. And you lost Saquon Barkley, who's going to be, look, if you're drafting your fucking fantasy teams, which I was supposed to do tonight. Holy shit.
Do you
have
to go draft?
That was an hour and a half ago.
Oh,
that'll be interesting.
So it's not the fault of the podcast then.
No, it's the fault of my father-in-law's 70th birthday party, which we were hosting. Anyway, I'm having a panic attack right now.
Yeah. Those auto drafts are wondrous, by the way.
Fuck me. I can't. This is Money League too.
He's going to have 3 kickers.
Oh, God. I
hear they score the most points for a football team as the kickers. So
they're going to trash me so bad in that league. It's Jason. It's our old unit.
It's that draft.
It's that draft.
Oh,
fuck me. Anyway, I'll be distracted by that the entire podcast. So college football, yes, App State is a good team. Penn State pulls it out at the end. It is a win. We're probably going to drop out of the top 10 though, because they're unranked. And it is what it is. It'll be the ebb and the flow of the college football season. I think Penn State is a better team than they showed last night. However, I think our defense, there's problems there. I think that shit needs to get worked out, especially when you play tougher conference opponents. But to Boise State, who won their game handily, congratulations, nicely done. And
were they not playing at home? Because I thought I saw pictures on social media, Bronco Fett like watching it from fucking home or something. Which doesn't he normally go to all the home games?
I would imagine it was an away game. He can tell us in the
because I was expecting to see pictures of him in the full Bronco Fett get up and everything, and him and his Darth Vader friend.
Yeah. No, it must have been an away game. I wasn't able to watch it. So
your mom's name is Troy, Dave?
No, they were playing Troy.
Oh, I thought Bronco Fett was talking about your mom in that. Sorry.
I see what you were trying to do there. It uncalled for. I fucking auto-drafted my goddamn fantasy league because I'm a fucking idiot. I set the date. I'm the fucking commissioner. Oh, God damn it.
So, Rebel Season 3. Part 2, by the way. So this is, how many episodes we got here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 episodes for the second half of Season 3. We're going to go through some of these episodes really, really fast because I don't want to fucking dwell on a lot of these episodes. The only thing I'm going to say about this opener, it was a 2-parter, The Ghosts of Geonosis. The only thing I have to say is Saw fucking Gerrera. If you go back to an early episode of the podcast, we did our top 5 or top 10 least favorite characters in the Star Wars universe. Saw Gerrera was my number 2. I fucking couldn't stand him in Rogue One. So when I saw he was part of this series of episodes in Rebels, I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'll get some background on the guy, get a little more context into his character. Maybe it won't be so bad. No, it's fucking worse. I fucking hate him even more now. Some of my notes for this episode are fucking shoot him. Ezra, take your lightsaber and kill him. Fuck Saw Gerrera. And at the very end, even though he kind of did the right thing, I still hate Saw Gerrera. Those were my notes for these 2 episodes.
Yeah, the development, you could have developed him so much better.
But fun fact, Forrest Whitaker returns to do the voice for Saw Gerrera in this, which timeline-wise, this came out in January of 17? Whatever, right after Rogue One came out. So Rogue One came out in December of 15, right? Yeah, because Force Awakens was 2014. So yeah. Right?
No.
Fuck. Whatever. I don't give a shit. Anyway, this came out the January after the December that fucking Rogue One came out. So Forrest Whitaker comes back, revoices Saw Gerrera. We get a little bit of background on him. Still fucking can't stand his ass. I'm glad he's dead, quite frankly.
Dude, quick sidebar.
Yeah.
I auto-drafted a pretty fucking kick-ass team.
Really?
I have no business. I have no business having this team.
That's great.
All right.
So hey, it all works out in the end.
I gotta get this out on the air. So Phillip Rivers and Dak Prescott are my quarterbacks.
Okay.
All right. Odell Beckham Jr., Julio, Derrick Henry, Lamar Miller, Zach Ertz, and some Minnesota wide receiver, Thielen, whatever. Crowder, Fuller, Williams, the running back for Green Bay, Howard, the Tampa Bay tight end, who actually I think is going to be pretty good this year, and Jacksonville's D with Green Bay as a second D. That is not fucking bad for a goddamn auto draft. That's I'm never fucking drafting again ever. Because there's
let an auto draft every time. Fuck it.
Yeah, I mean, what the fuck?
Well, and what's going to be great is if you end up actually doing well in this league, if you like make the playoffs, make the finals, and God forbid you fucking win this league.
If I win this league, I'm going to have to mic drop out of it.
Yeah,
because there's no way they're going to fucking let me. I already told them that I'm not going to be the commit. Like I'm passing the commissioner torch.
Right.
So anyway, sorry about that, everyone.
That's great.
Remember, this happened last year. There's going to be a lot of football smashed in with some Star Wars.
Yeah, so that's just the way it goes, especially when the NFL starts next week.
Next week with the Eagles, Falcons.
Hooray! So yeah, the first 2 episodes, fuck Saw Gerrera. Those are the main notes I have.
I agree. Fuck Saw Gerrera.
The next episode, Warhead. The only thing that I took out of this is this was one of the episodes where AP5, the fucking Imperial droid that they stole, kind of had a shining moment. He was really funny in this one. But later on throughout the course of the season, he becomes not funny to the point where he's really fucking annoying. I liked him through most of this season, and he got some good highlights in this one. We get a couple of Thrawn moments in this one, and really Thrawn, I think, is one of the characters that really steals the show. Of course, how could he not?
Right.
Throughout this season, where he's figuring shit out, he's kind of staying in step with the rebels, kind of like figuring out what the hell they're doing. And then, of course, we did talk about Kallus being Fulcrum last week, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Kallus. Okay. So yeah, and he's hot on the trail of the new Fulcrum to the point where he has some real, crazy exchanges with Kallus where you think, okay, he probably knows that he's fucking Fulcrum. Then we come into another, it's not officially a 2-parter, but it's a 2-parter because this revolves around the Darksaber, which we didn't talk about last week when we talked about them confronting Maul again in the middle of season 3 and then taking the Darksaber that he had.
Well, yeah, it was with the Night Sisters.
Right.
It was in the cave with the Night Sisters.
Right, and we didn't mention that last week when we covered that episode. But yeah, they grabbed the Darksaber.
I was too busy getting my balls busted by Bronco Fett about the not knowing the difference between which Night Sister was what. Although I do like the post he had on the private group about it being priced without makeup on. Posted a picture and he said, "Oh, it's priced without her makeup." Fucking awesome. Anyway,
I do have my moments, but
if you want to get in on that action, you need to get into the private Facebook group.
Yes, it's and remember, it's no holds barred. We don't hold back at all. You think the podcast is bad? Yeah. So anyway, we get into this kind of two-parter. That's not really a two-parter, but it is, and it's revolving around the Darksaber, where Kanan basically shows Sabine the Darksaber because it's tied in deep with the Mandalorians. Like it goes back to one fucking family, which, by the way, they briefly talk about how it started with the Vizsla family, who was the first fucking Jedi to, or the first Mandalorian to become a Jedi.
Right.
There is a character in the Old Republic, the MMO, called Shae Vizsla. She's a fucking Mandalorian, and she's part of that Vizsla family. Now, I don't know much about her background, but that is tied into the Old Republic. So another little fucking connection there between Old Republic, which is kind of in flux as far as canon goes, and then the actual official canon. So the Vizsla family is there, and they are Mandalorians in both. So something to think about. Overall, I found the first of this, the Trials of the Darksaber, to be kind of like a whiny teenager episode, because really it's fucking Sabine saying, "No, I don't want the Darksaber. Fuck, the Mandalorians don't like me, blah, blah, blah." And then her and Ezra bickering back and forth while they're trying to train her to actually use the fucking Darksaber, because they're like, "We need you to go back to the Mandalorians. Fucking get at least your family and your clan together so they can come help us as part of the rebellion," because they don't really give a shit about her and her family per se. They just want her fucking family to join the rebellion because they need numbers, basically. So that's kind of what happens in these two episodes. It's first they present her with the Darksaber, they train her how to use it, and then the next part is she actually goes and confronts her mom, confronts her clan, and tries to convince them to join the rebellion. Yeah, I know you wanted to mention this. Quite frankly, I was a little underwhelmed by these two episodes. They were okay. I did like seeing the history portion where they kind of got into, the first Mandalorian Jedi, and seeing the Darksaber itself. I'd heard about the Darksaber before, but I never actually had seen it. So it was kind of nice to see that and hear its background. But
I'm going to tell you this, like, for me, why I think it was a little bit more relevant to me is because I had seen season 4, and the Darksaber has more relevance during season 4.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it even comes back, at least this storyline comes back at the end of this season, because at the conclusion of these two episodes, Sabine leaves. She's done. She's leaving the rebellion. She's going to stay at home with her fucking Mandalorian people and try and get their shit together.
Right. And that was the biggest part. Probably for me, the biggest takeaway of this was, they make this really, really big emphasis on the ghost being like their family, right? They constantly, keep bringing that up. And this is where, this is the first time you see a member of the ghost's family actually leave.
Yeah.
And, for whatever reasons are.
Yeah. But they've been adding new people like crazy, but we haven't lost anyone yet until this.
And even the adding of people, the core group has been the core group.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's anyway. Yeah, that was all I had to say about that. That was the biggest takeaway for me was you actually see this like little bit of a, not necessarily a fissure in the with the Ghost crew, but there's that dynamic, and what Sabine actually brought to the crew is going to present itself later in later episodes where Sabine's not there.
Yeah.
So that expertise isn't there. And that's, imagine it being at that part of whatever it is that you're doing, that part of your football team or that part of whatever that's suddenly not there. Now, our talent level, like you're used to that being there. And now that it's not, it kind of, it affects the group.
Yeah, I want to read something that Bronco Fett just put into the chat because I think this is important to bring up for all the rest of the listeners. He says, and I quote, "It's funny how you guys respond to certain things. It's obvious you haven't seen the Clone Wars," which he is correct.
Yes, we have not seen the Clone Wars. We're not hiding that fact.
Yeah, no, but it's unique because we are seeing this stuff in Rebels that I think they made a lot of these episodes with the assumption that you have also seen Clone Wars, which is just not the case for us.
Why would that be the natural assumption? And Bronco Fett, hear me out on this. Why, for any place in the Star Wars universe, should we automatically assume that, like, when we've talked about this in a podcast, and this is one of the things about the podcast that I think that we do fairly uniquely. Even though we're going over to comics and it adds to what's going on in particular storylines and is part of canon and everything else, we try to make these assumptions that you haven't seen something. Like you haven't read these comics and you haven't seen this, so that you try and take that perspective on it. So because not a lot of people do. If you don't have young children, there's a really good chance that you haven't seen Clone Wars because it just may not have been part of something that you were going to make time to see. Mm-hmm. Now, super diehards, even for us, we've talked about what our backgrounds were at the time the Clone Wars was out. We talked about it when we started talking about Clone Wars. And now that we're doing a Star Wars podcast, we're going to cover Clone Wars, obviously. But
that's still in the books.
I think that and he might be just ribbing us, but the fact of the matter is that we haven't seen Clone Wars, and Rebels still manages to stand on its own for building of characters and everything else.
Yeah, because you have to. You can't just make a 100% across the board assumption that they've seen something else leading up to this beyond the previous seasons of Rebels, and of course the movies.
And the big reveals for some things were obviously like Ahsoka Tano showing up in Rebels. That was a much bigger reveal for those who had seen Clone Wars and knew about the character. And great, they managed to get that audience. And I think even people that hadn't seen Clone Wars were still they weren't lost by that. You know what I'm saying? So I think in anything that you do in Star Wars, whether it be the movies or anything else, there's definitely something to be said for the fact that if you just watched Rebels straight away, or maybe you just watch this Resistance show without reading something else or getting more into background, like, oh, I didn't read the Poe Dameron comic, so am I going to be able to follow the Resistance storyline or follow this particular storyline? I think it's important to Star Wars to know that while there is all this extra canon, some things can stand and survive on their own. So
sure.
I'm going to tell you that, yes, we're getting our balls busted for not watching Clone Wars. So some of these things seem like they're bigger reveals to us. But the fact of the matter is, we're watching Clone Wars, or we're watching Rebels in and of itself. Yeah, and we're still able to enjoy it.
Well, I think that's important. Yeah, and the thing too is you're getting our honest to God's reaction to this stuff, because I know you've seen season 4 of Rebels. I have not. I have no idea where it's fucking going from here. When we get to some of these later episodes in this season, some shit like fucking, I had some very strong reactions to some of the stuff I saw that we're going to talk about. And this was all raw. This was all stuff that I watched yesterday for the first time. Didn't have any prior knowledge of it whatsoever. And I'm like, what the fuck? So yeah, you're getting our raw reaction just because of life in general. We haven't been able to watch all of this stuff. So, and yeah, we don't have that Clone Wars perspective either. So you're looking at this through the eyes of somebody who hasn't finished Clone Wars. So it's a unique perspective, if nothing else,
Right. Exactly. And there's a lot of people that, like, even in the chat, Len Brown said he couldn't get past the first season of Clone Wars, and the first season was
it was brutal. Tough. It was really fucking brutal. I'm shocked anybody was able to get through it, honestly.
And then Len Brown goes on to say how much he enjoyed watching Rebels, and I appreciate Bronco Fett's position on this, where like there are definitely episodes down the line that have relevance and are good, and we're looking forward to that because we will see those. Mm-hmm. And we'll have it from a perspective of some things are probably already going to be spoiled, but I'm curious to see how they get there.
Yep.
So anyway, enough about that.
Let's
get back to, because we're We're on the under the gun on timing, unfortunately.
A note I made real quick that I just want to talk about during the Mandalorian stuff, but this goes for the whole season. The animation is getting really fucking good. You look at some of the background details, especially in these Mandalorian episodes when they go to Sabine's family. They're on this like fucking snowy mountain side, and the details are really fucking good. And even the characters are starting to look a lot better. Like,
yeah. Well, look at we haven't talked about it yet, but the Twin Sons episode when they're going to Tatooine, and like it looks like the matte painting that they used from the original movie.
Yeah,
you know how they're flying in, and you see the atmosphere and the consistency of the Star Wars flavor is there, which makes it really, really good.
Yep.
Excuse me.
The next episode was Through Imperial Eyes, and this one revolves around Agent Kallus, who we now know is Fulcrum, and Thrawn, along with, by the way, Colonel Yularen, who, if you remember, he was in the Thrawn novel. He had a big part in that. So he comes back for this, and he's helping Thrawn try to weed out who the fucking spy is. Long story short, Thrawn figures out that it's fucking that it's Kallus, even though Kallus had set somebody else up to take the fall as the spy. Fucking Thrawn knew. He saw through all of the bullshit, and he's like, oh yeah, we got him. Thrawn, he fucking steals every scene that he's in. He's such a good character. He's one of the best villains straight up in Star Wars. One of the best characters, period, in Star Wars. So,
yeah, I mean, and even the calling him a villain is questionable.
It's borderline. Yeah, it's borderline the way, like, is he really a villain? Is he just kind of looking out for his home world? What is his long game? Which, again, I have not seen season 4, so I don't know what his fucking fate is. I'm hoping to God he's still alive by the end of it, but we'll see. Oh god! Then we get the fucking Secret Cargo episode, which revolves around Mon Mothma and her joining the rebellion officially because she calls out Palpatine like live on the Senate fucking floor. I'm shocked they didn't just execute her right then and there, but they let her leave, and she eventually escaped. Joins the rebels. One thing I'm going to say about the new fucking canon is it's really making me hate the fucking rebellion more and more. Because they present them as such just fucking little goody two shoes pieces of shit that you just like, shut the fuck up, okay? Just go away. I don't like you. I don't want to listen to you. Mon Mothma is becoming one of those, and I didn't dislike her character in the original trilogy or even earlier in the Rebels or even Rogue One for that matter. But I don't know. Now she's just getting really fucking annoying, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that. This was the point. Okay, this is kind of a side-ish bar. This was the point where I made something in my notes, because I noticed in here the lady that did the voice for Mon Mothma in this was the lady who did the voice for her in fucking Rogue One. So a lot of consistency here with the voices and the actors and actresses and everything. I watch these on Amazon Prime now, right? Because I buy them on Amazon, watch them through the Prime Video. Really a great way to watch it. And throughout the course of the series so far, whenever like I hear a voice, I'm like, that voice sounds familiar. I'll pause it, and like it'll have on the side of the screen like the actors, like the IMDb like cast and crew kind of along the side, like as part of the menu when you pause the thing. And I'll pick it out and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. I didn't fucking realize that when you do that until this episode. I noticed it in this episode. When you do that, it doesn't show you the whole cast and crew. It shows you who the cast is for this particular scene that you fucking paused it on.
Really?
Yes. I'm like, what? And then I went back and tested it. And yes, that's exactly the way it happens. If you're watching this on Amazon and you pause it for any scene, it will show you the cast of who is on the fucking screen right now in this scene.
That's crazy.
And it'll show you who the characters are and who the voices are for each. I'm like, that is amazing. And this is probably a feature on Amazon Prime. It's probably been a feature for years, and I'm just now discovering.
I would have never have known it.
Yeah, because it never clicked with me that every time I paused it because I want to hear or I want to see who this voice is, their face is right fucking there. Like every time that I pause it, and it never clicked on me until I saw this, because it was like fucking Mon Mothma, Hera, and one other person in the fucking shuttle. I paused it, and it was just those three right there on the screen on that side menu. I'm like, huh. And then I tested it, and sure as shit, that's the way it goes. So if you watch these on Amazon and you want to know who does the voice for a particular person, just skip to that scene, and it'll tell you right then and there.
No shit. That's cool. I doubt iTunes has that functionality, honestly.
Maybe, you never know.
I have it on iTunes and I've paused it, and I don't get that.
Yeah. So anyway, we get a real fucking stinker of an episode next. Double Agent Droid. This is where AP5's character really took a fucking nosedive for me.
Holy shit, dude! It was the most obnoxious, annoying fucking thing. And by the way, way to make Wedge like almost you don't want to see that character ever again.
Mm-hmm.
In one fucking episode. And honestly, okay. So we all know I had a hard on for the fucking episode where, you know, basically they get Wedge out of the Imperial Academy, right?
Oh yeah, good episode.
So the TIE Fighter uniform, the TIE Fighter pilot uniform that Wedge is wearing when they go to the base to steal the plans is from the Academy. Right. It's got the symbology from being from the Academy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going in on a secret mission in uncharted space, if you're going in to do this fucking mission, right? You paint up the fucking droid, and you have an Imperial fucking old protocol droid anyway, right? And you're going to go in there with a TIE Fighter. Wouldn't you fucking put on the right goddamn, like, you're going in there, like, first of all, you're flying a goddamn shuttle, and you haven't graduated from the Academy yet. I mean, you don't have. Obviously, like every TIE Fighter pilot you've ever seen has dual Empire symbols on the fucking helmet. Mm-hmm. This guy obviously came from the fucking student flight, and nobody's going to fucking question that. Like, you're going to go ahead and let that go as part of the intel.
I'm sure one of the first things you learn as part of being in the Empire too is the attention to detail. That's what they fucking do. Yeah. That's military.
Fucking AP5 talks about, like, oh, the plainness of the hallways and shit like that. You know, that's the type of shit where that pissed me off. Like, among other things about this episode, like AP5, the fucking banter between him and
oh fucking, my god, that was him and fucking Chopper. That was the worst.
Yeah, and the fact that Wedge was oblivious to the fact that something was up when fucking Chopper came back, and like, it's like, all right, stop it, just fucking stop. Okay, this is a poorly written episode.
Well, but it ends. So, oh my god, a lot of shit happens. They're trying to escape. They get these plans. Blah blah blah. Fucking. AP5 gets jettisoned into space temporarily.
Oh, yeah.
Well, some other shit goes on.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
He starts singing.
I know.
He starts singing and having these fucking visions of these fucking floating, weird squid-looking things in space. I'm like, this is my note. AP5 is singing. What in the ever-loving fuck? That is what I wrote. That is what I wrote on my fucking notes. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? That was the weirdest fucking thing.
And then he's like, "Don't pick me up." It was not good. And I don't like the fact that they dragged Wedge into it. I don't like the fact that they dragged Wedge into it with an inappropriate fucking uniform that nobody fucking noticed. Yep. And the shit at the end, all the AP5 fucking banter, I wanted them all to explode. I was just like, oh, into the vacuum of space, and no more. The credits come down, Dave Filoni, whatever. Yeah, fuck that episode. So moving on. How much time we got left?
We've still got about a good half hour almost. So that's good because we're going to need it to cover these last few episodes. Right. Speaking of what in the ever-loving fuck. The next episode is Twin Suns.
Right.
So this is the resolution of the storyline that's been going on all fucking season with Maul and Ezra. Remember with the fucking holocrons, right. Maul wants to see something, sees the Twin Suns. Ezra wants to see destroying the Sith, blah, blah, blah. They fucking know Obi-Wan's alive. So we start off with Maul on fucking Tatooine. He's looking for fucking Obi-Wan. So we're like, oh shit, here we fucking go. He can't find him, obviously, because Obi-Wan's in hiding. So his big plan is to coax Ezra into coming to Tatooine to help him pull Obi-Wan out of hiding. Weird fucking plan, but okay. Fucking eventually it works. Spoiler alert. Ezra fucking leaves the rebels, despite the fact that they're planning some big operation
on Lothal, his home planet.
Yeah, where they kind of need him. He fucking goes because he knows fucking Maul's out there. He's calling to him. Takes an A-wing, lands on fucking Tatooine. Immediately, it gets destroyed by a bunch of sand people.
Yeah, it steals an A-wing.
Yeah. And so that's another ship gone from the Rebel fleet. And
first of all, it was a trainer.
Sure.
It was like, because he asks, like, and this is the first time I've actually heard them call him Lieutenant Ezra, or it's the first time where I actually picked up on it.
They've mentioned it briefly a couple times.
I've heard Commander, I've heard him use Commander title with him.
Well, I think it was in episode 1 they promoted him to lieutenant in the very first episode of the season.
Okay, but like I said, I've also heard them referred to as commander. Now, I don't know if it's like, again, this is our military background fucking with me, because like, okay, you can be a lieutenant and be the commander of something, or the captain
of like a flight or something, or a squadron.
or in naval terminology, like you could be a lieutenant commander, which would be like a light colonel, or no, that would be a major in the Navy, and you could be the captain of a ship. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things. And so he says Lieutenant Ezra, and then they ask him about, oh, which one's got fuel? And the fucking, oh yeah, the trainer's got fuel, and he hops in the trainer and fucking goes.
Yeah. And
somehow he doesn't notice that fucking what's his nuts, the fucking droid gets in the goddamn A-wing with him.
Yeah, Chopper.
Chopper, sorry.
Also didn't take any rations with him. Knew it was a desert planet from his visions. Didn't take any survival kits or anything. Just went willy-nilly.
Obviously, the train. Yeah. This kid is the worst with using the Force, by the way. Like the absolute worst. No situational awareness whatsoever. I think I could fail him out of fucking row school. I keep 3 his ass on SA.
Yeah, but I mean, we're still following along. We're on Tatooine. We're on motherfucking Tatooine, which is a pretty important planet. Ezra just decides to go off into the fucking desert. Like, the Force is calling me, or these like little dice holocrons are fucking calling me in this direction, so I have to go in that direction. Fucking, he passes out. Fucking Chopper gets like seized up because of the sand and shit. Oh, by the way, somewhere earlier in the season, fucking Sabine had a fucking "I hate sand, it gets everywhere" line. This was like one of the first couple episodes in the season, but I digress. That's like a running gag now in Star Wars, apparently. But yeah, the Obi-Wan eventually comes out to save Ezra, and he knows who Ezra is. How? How does Obi-Wan know who fucking Ezra is? He called him Ezra Bridger.
Mm-hmm.
How does he know that he's got the Force? How does he know he's like training to be a Jedi? He knows all this shit. Somehow. Anything?
Do you want me to give you my theory on what I think that is?
Sure. As long as it's not a spoiler for season 4.
I don't think so. I think this is more along the lines of, you make a comment in the notes about where in a timeline are we right now? Because
we're gonna get to that.
Because this is obviously like, this is not Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan. This is older Obi-Wan.
Yeah, he's like really channeling the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, and
right.
This, like,
really, so even with the voice and everything else. So I mean, this is expanded universe probably getting too much effect with me, and reading the Kenobi book, by the way, because it was mentioned in the chat, Kenobi. But so if Qui-Gon has the ability to talk to Obi-Wan as a Force ghost or whatever, and this connection in the Force is being made, to me, in theory, that if Obi-Wan in meditation knows kind of like what's going on with the Ezra Bridger, the Kanans, the Ahsokas, and those things, but still, he has his task on Tatooine. It doesn't. He could be doing those things and like knowing that all that stuff is going on, but has a singular task on Tatooine. Mm-hmm. He's not going to leave Tatooine because he has to make sure that Luke stays safe. Right. So him knowing these things, like they're knowing him through the Force or whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that, like, I don't necessarily make the leap of like, well, why didn't he do anything about it or anything else? Because he does. He has a singular task. So
Yeah.
That's my theory. Like if he's talking to Qui-Gon and they're kind of communing through the Force and kind of having a general idea what's going on and who's left of the Jedi, then maybe I don't know. It's a stretch. It really
not
is
a deal breaker for me or anything. It's just I'm like, how does he know this? Why I don't know. It just came out of nowhere for me. But
he was prepared. He was prepared for him to show up. I mean, honestly, like the one thing that we know from watching this episode is that Obi-Wan knew that Maul was there, because he knew where his ship was. Because when Ezra got onto the dewback, he's like, "You're gonna go this way. You're gonna find the ship." And then suddenly, the next thing you see is Ezra landing back at the base with Maul's ship. So
right, yeah. Well, hold on. We skipped past an important part.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying that we knew Obi-Wan knew that fucking Maul was there.
Yeah. Well, that I could understand because he could sense him. He's sensed Maul before. He knew who Maul was before. He's had interactions with him in the past.
And if, fuck, damn it, if Ezra lands the A-wing in the Junlin Waste, right?
Great map, by the way.
Yeah. Who's to say that Obi-Wan didn't watch all that go down? You know,
that's true. Yeah, he could have been there the whole time.
Yeah, see the same people go after the A-wing. See Chopper and Ezra go walking off into the fucking desert. You know, he could have saw that whole thing.
Yeah,
and maybe picked through the wreckage and figured out, who it was. That doesn't even have to be that deep into the Force. Maybe he just fucking did a little recon after the Sand People fucking took off. So,
could be.
I don't know.
So, all right. So this all builds to Maul coming out. His plan worked to perfection. He used Ezra to draw out Obi-Wan on his fucking dewback mount. And here we are. Maul's coming up, confronting Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan tells Ezra, hey, town's that way. Get on my mount. Save yourself. Go help your friends. And here we go. The epic confrontation. The final countdown. The final battle between Darth fucking Maul and Obi-Wan Kenobi. It starts off. Tell me you remember this. It reminds me of the fucking Family Guy. The when they're over the Sarlacc pit.
Dun
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 dun dun dun dun dun, and it's just going and going, and it's just Obi-Wan looking at Maul, posing, doing his little double finger thing, and then Maul pulling out his lightsaber and just looking. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're gonna get ready. This is gonna be fucking awesome. Holy shit, this is great. And Maul swings at him, and Obi-Wan kills him. So what the fuck just happened? And that was it. It was over. One swing, and he's dead. All of this fucking build, this rivalry between Darth Maul and Obi-Wan, fucking Obi-Wan allegedly killing him in episode 1, only for the fans to love him and him to get revived in Clone Wars. Don't know what happened in Clone Wars, but I'm assuming they had some kind of confrontation. And now this whole fucking season, Maul's been looking for Obi-Wan. One swing. Maul jumps at him, slap, boom, dead. What the fuck?
Uh-huh.
What the fuck was that?
Uh-huh.
Are you kidding me? Please try to rationalize this for me, because I don't understand at all.
There's no rationalization. And the fact of the matter is, and we talked about this a little bit before we came on. Back when this episode originally aired, there was such a huge build up to it. And when it went down the way it went down, people lost their shit.
I can understand why.
And I'm sure they can confirm this in the chat, because it was the buildup was so huge for something that ended so anticlimactic. And I wish I could remember it exactly, but I do remember there was like some bullshit answer that came out of like the story group about why it went down the way it went down. And I never bought it for a fucking second. Yeah. But it definitely was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
All right, like you know, like you're not proving how powerful Obi-Wan is. You know, maybe you're just proving how weak Darth Maul was. I mean, I don't know. I don't know
That
what
had-
the fucking it had.
That's the only thing I could think of.
They had to have you know, like, oh shit, it's a 22-minute episode and we're at minute 20 minutes 30 seconds. This fight can't last very long. So done. One shot, one swing, and then we'll rationalize it later.
Yeah.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, it like, how could they not have had some sort of fucking battle? I mean, again, you know, how does Obi-Wan kill him? How does Obi-Wan kill him? Like,
Yeah,
what
'cause
did
you don't
he
really-
do? He swung at him laterally like this. There's no damage to Maul's face.
Yeah, you can see
I
a little
guess
bit of
it's a-
smoke kind of coming from his chest area, but fuck, he survived his goddamn legs getting chopped off.
How did he? There's, I don't know. What's
Yeah.
I'm looking at the chat and I'm like, look, I don't. We could probably do some more research about, like, you know, rationalization of this particular episode, and
Yeah.
we could probably talk about it for fucking 45 minutes. But the reality is that, as good as this episode should have been, it ended like a fucking shit sandwich.
Yeah.
With the fight, because I do like the fact there's a couple of things that I do want to I want to pull from this episode that I think were relevant.
Sure.
One of those is not necessarily relevant, but just that I liked. I liked the very end when Obi-Wan on Dewback goes and you see, you see Beru and fucking Owen's home.
Yeah, and you hear Luke,
and it's the John Williams score for Twin Sons.
Yes.
It's not the Rebels, like, kind of like we put a little bit of something in here, so it's not exactly like fucking John Williams. No, it is the fucking score. So it was a poignant moment for those of us who have read the Kenobi book, that have all this fucking Kenobi fucking hard-ons, like, and that want to see a Kenobi movie and everything else. This ultimately, it just shows you, we brought Kenobi into this world for this brief moment to show you why that he still exists, but he has one singular function.
Yeah.
And I think that was the point of the episode. Like, cue the music.
Yeah.
Like, he's here to do this.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's just I think I'm more upset with just the unceremonious way that they just killed off Darth Maul. They went through all this effort to bring him fucking back, to revive him, because people loved him so much, only to just fucking kill him off like this. And Lynn Brown made a good point in the chat. He's like, this is our Obi-Wan movie. And I'm like, you know what? This should have been the Obi-Wan movie. You should not have fucking killed off Darth Maul in this. If you were even thinking about an Obi-Wan movie, you should never have fucking killed him. And that would have been the Obi-Wan movie.
Well,
is Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, and Maul looking for him on Tatooine.
There's
that
a lot.
Would have been the Obi-Wan movie.
I mean, it goes even bigger than that. We're only looking at the Maul stuff through eyes of Rebels, but we also know that Maul fucking ran Mandalore at some point.
Yeah.
So there's a whole thing for that, which I'm assuming is in Clone Wars at some point.
Yeah.
Stonebleeds, who is Orange Jacket guy, it talks about it. Couldn't they have just put a nail on it and offload the whole fight to the next episode? Absolutely, to be continued. And then you could have had a whole fucking, you could have 5-minute fight sequence and then move into something else. They obviously didn't want to do that because the 0 hour parts 1 and 2 were big in and of themselves.
Yeah.
So obviously you couldn't do that. Like, who knows? I certainly don't know. Dave Filoni's probably the only one that knows the real answer to that, because he is the, I'll go so far as to say, the genius behind this particular series.
Yeah, and
I'm sure there was some rationale for it that made sense at the time, but for us as fans, it did not. It left a huge gaping wound into, like, why was Maul's ending so incomplete for us?
Yeah.
And
I think you're right. We may just have to do some more research and kind of come back to this topic at some point, because we do have to get through these last 2 episodes. And I had one other note before we moved on.
Yes, Bronco Fett. Hang on. Bronco Fett. Animate that with your action figures. Go.
Yes, that would be great. So after Obi-Wan sliced Maul, Maul didn't die immediately. They had one dialogue exchange, which I did think was kind of relevant. Maul asks Obi-Wan, because during the whole pre-fight, Maul figures out that Obi-Wan's on Tatooine because he's protecting someone.
Yeah.
Right?
He figures out, why are you here? You
Yeah.
can't be here just to hide out.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah.
And he asks Obi-Wan in his death throes, is he the chosen one? And Obi-Wan says he is, obviously referring to Luke. So this is the first time in current canon that I can tell that they are referring to, oh, maybe it was always Luke who was the chosen one and not Anakin, kind of thing. This is like the first allusion to that I've seen in the new canon.
So personally, I think this is a typo, a Rebels typo.
What?
And I'll tell you why. Because, all right, this is supposed to be, this is a relevant moment, you know, the death throes and all that other shit to talk about him being the chosen one. Mm-hmm. I think it, well, all right, let's not say Rebels typo. Let's just say this is
an oversight.
Obi-Wan not being truthful with him. Because there's not one. To me, Luke can't be the chosen one because there were two. The chosen one was the chosen one to bring balance to the Force. I mean, didn't
we do a whole episode on this? Like,
yes, we did.
Chosen one is?
We did. And to me, Anakin is still the chosen one. Like, Luke is not there to bring balance to the Force. That's what Anakin's job was. Anakin's job was to fucking go to the dark side and create fucking Luke and Leia.
True.
You know, as we talk about that. So I think that this is Obi-Wan not being honest with Maul. And for good reason. You know that if the Jedi could fucking be Force ghosts and not die, really, and still exist in the ether, right? Still be able to commune in the Force with you. Why would you tell a Sith the truth, even in death? The guy died once. You cut him in half, for fuck's sake. Why would you tell him the truth? I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's true.
No fucking way. I'd tell him it was the fucking it was the other guy.
Yeah, it was the fucking gunner from my other ship. It ended up being that guy.
Yeah, it's some guy named Dak. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, I do actually like that explanation. So I will accept that. Okay, last thing before we move on from this episode. We talked about the timeline. We talked about at the very end when Obi-Wan goes to the fucking Lara's house and you hear Beru, Luke.
Right.
When do you think this took place? Like this moment in Rebels compared to episode 4, where do you think the timeline is here? Are we talking months? Do you think it's weeks?
No.
Do you think it's days?
What before? No, what you see running towards, you know, the call from Aunt Beru is a young Luke.
So you think we're talking years between this point in Rebels and episode 4?
I am.
Okay. I don't necessarily dispute that, but
I think you're watching Luke as a child run towards the home.
Okay. Because I'm under the impression that season 4 ends with like either Rogue One, like the events of Rogue One, or like the fucking attack on the Death Star. And that's like, you know, even Rogue One is like days before Luke is fucking picked up from Tatooine. So I'm just trying to put together the timeline. I guess hopefully it'll all make sense after season 4, which I have not seen, don't know a thing about. So we'll see. But yeah, I just wanted to have that discussion real quick. But so you think it's years though?
I do.
Okay, fair enough. All right, we're up to the finale, 0 Hour, parts 1 and 2, which the whole season has been building to where they wanted to attack the factory on Lothal, right? The TIE fighter factory with Thrawn's new TIE defenders, those weird fucking tri-defender looking things. That you assume that that's what this is all building towards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wrong, because fucking Maul, Thrawn, because he's a goddamn genius, figures out where the fucking rebel base is, and everything turns around, big plot twist, and instead of this being an attack on Lothal, it's an attack on fucking, what is it, Adalon is the name of the planet they were on?
Yeah.
The bugs from Wreck-It Ralph, that planet. and where Bendu is.
Right.
So this becomes an assault on that, and the rebels just being like, "Fuck, what do we do? We're in deep shit now," and that's kind of what these 2 episodes were.
Right.
I mean, it starts off with them, throughout the whole season, they're trying to rally other systems and other fleets and everything to them. And right now they're kind of like a skeleton fleet, and they get trapped because the Empire's got those Star Destroyers that have the anti-gravity wells in them.
Gravity wells.
Yeah, which we were introduced to. Was that last season? I think.
Gosh, I don't remember.
In earlier episodes of Rebels, be it this season or last season, it's all running together. So ultimately, they've got a blockade around the planet, and our rebels
blockade.
Yeah, a blockade is a perfectly legal. Yeah. So the first part of the 2-parter is mostly space. Them trying to get Ezra like through the blockade so he can go out and call for help, and then them just defending themselves on the planet
in Maul's ship.
Yes, because at the end of Twin Suns, Ezra's like, "Well, fuck, Maul's not going to need this ship anymore." And
well, that's where I was alluding to it. Obi-Wan knew where Maul's ship was, so that's your way off planet.
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan pretty much. I think that's what makes me think Obi-Wan had seen all this happening in the Force.
Yep. And then for part 2, like Ezra gets out and he decides at the last second, like, we're going to go find Sabine. She's going to be our savior. So that's where the first episode ends. Then the second one, it's now they're going to start their ground assault. And earlier on in season 3, they found shield generators, much like the shield generators from Hoth, if you remember from Empire Strikes Back. They found some more of those, brought the power core with them, and now they've got this shield generator on Atollon. They use that as they're fucking just bombarding them with laser fire from fucking space. The shield barely holds, and then they start a ground assault, which you would imagine AT-ATs and all this shit. And of course, the rebels are fighting back. Kanan tries to get Bendu to assist because Bendu's a Force user. He's that big fucking monstrosity of a guy. At first, he says he's not getting involved. He is both light and dark. He doesn't choose sides. Blah blah blah. Obviously, that changes later. Sabine comes back with Ezra with a couple of Mandalorian ships. They can't really spare much, but their plan is to just take out the gravity well shit, just so the rebels can fucking escape at this point. Thrawn is part of the boarding party now. This is where we get some more of that intertwining between Thrawn alliances and rebels, because if you remember at the very beginning of the newest Thrawn book, Alliances, they reference Thrawn having the rebels trapped and them escaping with the help of some unknown creature that they talk about, which ends up being Bendu. So this all wraps around with the Thrawn book and the tie-ins to Rebels and everything else. Long story short, Bendu comes back, lightning storms, blah, blah, blah. But he's also attacking fucking Kanan and the crew, which I guess he's being neutral, right? He's attacking both sides. He's just like, get off my planet. Name of Bendu species Wills. Yeah, sure. And
we talked about that last week.
Yeah. Ultimately, they escape, obviously, because it wouldn't be much of a show without our band of rebels. But yeah, pretty rough fucking 2-parter. Heavy losses. A lot of ships went down. It's looking pretty bleak for our band of rebels by the end.
So what do you think is the most important? This is a loaded question.
Okay.
What do you think is the most important part of this episode?
Most important part of this episode. Oh, well, they rescue Kallus. Agent Kallus is now with our rebels. He makes it out because he got captured in an earlier episode when Thrawn found him out. So he's been in captivity, but he gets out and makes it to our people. Bendu is probably dead. Thrawn's still alive. I don't know. I'm not sure what the...
there was an exchange with Bendu and Thrawn.
Oh, about how seeing his future or something to that effect? Yeah, I didn't really pick up on what he was laying down. I don't know where he was going with that, basically. But whatever he said, he pissed Thrawn off to the point where Thrawn finished him.
That exchange is going to have relevance later. I'll just leave it at that.
Fuck, now I want to know exactly what was said.
You're going to have to go back and watch it.
Let me see if the Wikipedia has the actual exchange in here.
No, watch it where you get the full effect, because then you can see why Thrawn's reaction was the way it was. Because Thrawn, what Thrawn's trying to do is figure out what the hell Bendu is. Like, you know, the fact that he figured out to the point it was like, okay, shoot into the middle of the cloud, and then you had this creature that fell in front of him that ultimately he shoots in the face and then disappears like a Jedi would.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
like, so Thrawn's trying to figure this the fuck out, because this is something that's outside of his, like, he just doesn't have any context for this at all. And then this thing, this being, tells him that how he sees his you know, how he sees his demise.
Yeah.
And then Thrawn kills him. All right. So it's obvious that they put this in here to fucking tee us up for something.
Right.
You know, this exchange was not like, it wasn't like fucking Darth Maul's death. this actually would bear some relevance for what we go into for the next season. But I agree. Like, it's like anything else. Like, the rebellion, while Thrawn is at the helm, he seems to be, you know, continuously ahead of where the rebellion is. But at the same time, I think the big thing we can pick up, I'm kind of segueing into like a wrap up of season 3. I think what we see is the rebellion getting bigger. And you see, like, when they pick up 5 minutes left. All right.
Yes.
Thanks. Which is good because I have to pee.
Okay.
I think what you see is you have the rebellion definitely getting bigger and stronger as this time goes on. You see the involvement of Mon Mothma. You see the General Dordana.
Yeah, and you know they're picking up different pieces of equipment, ships, vehicles.
They're getting ships, and you're starting to recognize like ships like from that you're going to see in New Hope. You know, you're starting to recognize like the Corvettes and stuff like that you're going to be really familiar with. So I think that's where this season, like, where it had its ups and downs as far as episodically, but like the build up as we get into season 4, like season 4 has a lot more ups than downs. I'm right out on a limb and go ahead and say that.
Yeah, and I think you hit it too, where this season just kind of feels like it's building all towards something. Right. It's building towards season 4, where it feels incomplete to me.
Yeah, and season 4, honestly, like it's interesting because season 4, they didn't know that season 4 was going to be the last season. And we'll talk about that when we start talking about season 4. That's something that we're definitely have to, we're going to have to speak to, because it was kind of abruptly said, okay, this is going to be the last season. So changes obviously had to have been made at some point. So, but that's something we'll talk about when we talk about season 4. Sure. But yeah, I think it was definitely, you're seeing the rebellion start to come together, and you also get a sense that the rebellion is not just, it's obviously not just these people. It's not just these people over here, that it's much, much bigger, and it's culminating into one larger thing.
Yep. Yeah, overall, it was solid, very solid season. I had no issue with it overall. You know, a couple of farts in church here and there, but for the most part, great season. Though, again, it feels like it's all building towards the next season. Like, you didn't get a whole lot of conclusion or closure in this season, with the exception, I guess, of Darth Maul. Fuck me, right? But overall, it was great. And maybe we'll get into some more deeper details later on. Bronco Fett recommends we split season 4 into even more parts. You know, I'm assuming so we can cover more details in specific episodes.
Potentially.
We'll talk about that as the time comes. But for next week, I think we need to take a break from Rebels. I even wrote it in the notes here, just because we've done 2 weeks in a row of Rebels. It's time to step away. Plus, allegedly, my school's starting to get a little more intense in about a week and a half or so from now. So I may need to do some easier topics, maybe just a couple of fun research topics, maybe some lists, maybe some comics.
Fair enough.
And shelve Rebels maybe until October.
Maybe. In October, we'll be talking about probably the Resistance show, since that's when it's supposed to come out, right? October 4th, something like that. One thing we didn't talk about in the beginning is, aren't we getting the Blu-ray or the digital release of Solo this week? Isn't that this week?
Yeah, because I think the Blu-ray is mid-month, and then obviously they're releasing it digitally. ahead of that. So you are probably correct. In fact, let me pull up Amazon right now.
How are you on time?
Like 2 minutes left. So anyway, why don't you take us home while I'm looking this up?
So social media. For hopefully we have some new listeners out there. Hopefully there's some people who my wife has recruited in some form or fashion. You know, whether you've been accosted at a line in ShopRite or whatever. You can find us on Instagram at All Things Star Wars Pod. You can find us on Facebook at All Things Star Wars Pod. You can, and if you're going to go on Facebook and you want to be part of the private group, let us know. You can apply for that. No trolling though, by the way. On Twitter, we're at All Things SW Pod. We're our Teespring store. If you liked Jason's selection of tops today, as opposed to that hideous fucking tank top.
Right here. There you go.
There it is. He's got his All Things Star Wars tank top on. You can go to teespring.com/stores/all things SW pod.
Sure.
The link will be in the show notes.
Yeah, everything is in the show description. So
and yeah.
So September 14th for digital, September 25th for Blu-ray.
So 14th, not the 4th. So we still got a couple weeks.
Yep. So yeah, with that, we actually have to close this down because we're right at our fucking our go home point because of the limitations of the remote recording. Thanks to everybody who's been in the chat. Sorry we couldn't engage a little bit more, but
welcome, Brocco Vader.
Yes, and until next week, Dave and everybody else, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. I gotta click.